We're doing a series and just finishing up. This is the last Sunday of a series based on this book by Alan Cohen called Enough Already, and the subtitle is The Power of Radical Contentment. And it seemed kind of an odd thing, with all that's going on in the world, to say, well, let's talk about being contented. But the thread throughout the series has been, that's the only place that you can really be of any use, is if you are at peace, we are at peace in a state of contentment within. And of course, it all starts from within. We're reminded that we don't need to wait for someone else to make it so, or do something so that we can be contented. So that has been the theme this month. And to be contented is to experience a sense of well-being and a sense of inner peace despite conditions. But it doesn't mean complacency. That's important to know. It does not in any way mean complacency. Rather, it's about being in that place where you appreciate all that you have, even while you're reaching for all that you desire, all the possibilities that are there for you. And in that consciousness, we make them welcome. We make all of the good that we desire and that is ours, we make it welcome when we're in that state of inner peace and contentment. So Alan Cohen wrote in his book, just to remind you again, as I've said each Sunday, but just to remind you again, he said, in a world seemingly obsessed with discontent, with fear and crisis and insufficiency, the notion of contentment may seem totally unrealistic and crazy and even like heresy. And yet, being able to find contentment right where you stand may be the very answer. So, if you'd like to catch up on the series, we have podcasts, and you just access those by going to our website. And today, in the fourth part of the series, we're going to wrap it up with 4 simple practices applicable to most any situation. I like to say one-stop shopping. And these 4 practices can free you to experience contentment almost immediately. You've probably heard these on previous occasions. I know I have talked about them on previous occasions, so if you've been here, you've heard them. But if you're like me, a reminder is always useful, and I can use a reminder, especially of these basics. So here they are. Show up, pay attention, tell the truth, be unattached to outcomes. Again, show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and be unattached to outcomes. In those 4 tools is a recipe for contentment, and a lot of other things too. But it really is. I can't think of doing all of those and being other than certainly moving the needle toward greater contentment. And this is more than self-help. Now, those are great self-help tools. But each Sunday, I always want you to know that we're looking at these things through the lens of the powerful principles of science of mind, of New Thought, the ancient spiritual wisdom that Dr. Ernest Holmes, the architect of our philosophy, brought up to date for us. And so it's much more than just a list of things to do, although by themselves they're useful too. But we're looking at these, and I want you today to listen to these and look at them through the lens of 2 main things, of principles that we always talk about. That number 1, you are an individualized expression of the Creator. Not only do you have Spirit, God, the essence of the infinite in you, it is expressing as you, as an individual, as a one-of-a-kind creation. So, wow! You're not doing this at all alone. And that leads me to the other thing to know. You are never alone. So as you think about these tools, realize you're not alone. That these are truly ways that God, by whatever name you want to call it, expresses through you and makes all the difference. So, show up, the song, like he said. I love the words that said, you never know what can happen when you show up. You never know what might be. If you make a room for a miracle, just to show up. She said, to show up as me, to show up as you. Just show up, take your time, slow down, let it be easy. Just show up. Remember our great metaphysical master, Woody Allen, who said 80% of success is simply showing up. Of course, there are a lot of other things involved with success, but the point is they're kind of irrelevant, aren't they, if we don't show up first? So maybe he had a point there. So in your life today, you might be feeling stuck about some issue, maybe confused, uncertain, afraid, fearful, fearful and afraid, worried, what-ifing, or you may be on the verge of some great opportunity, too, that you're just hesitating because it's so huge and exciting. And it may be that the first thing you just need to do is show up. Show up. What might that look like? Well, to show up might be a physical thing where you go somewhere. You get off the couch and you go somewhere. You show up someplace. Or it may be that you contact somebody, maybe just one person, one resource. Showing up might be taking just one action, just taking the first step. This is a complete sentence. Show up. Got that? Just show up. It's a complete sentence. That means it's not about showing up only when you have a terrific plan or a perfect agenda or when everything is in place or when you feel in the mood. This is about just show up. And that's kind of an interesting thing to play with because in our conditioning, our training, our culture, we're used to getting all prepared and considering all the contingencies, and there's nothing wrong with that except if we're feeling stuck and possibly in fear, worry, or projecting like, what if? So if you can just show up, period, it moves you forward. It moves us forward. And here's the thing that can happen when you show up. Most likely you'll get some information that can inform your next step. And you never know who else might be showing up too. You know, when you show up, you're available to coincidence and synchronicity and whatever is there for you because you have made yourself available. And the consequences of not showing up, of course, bottom line, you stay in discontent. We stay in that place of being burdened by a multitude of unknowns and missing out on guidance that is there for us, missing out on the blessings that are waiting, and missed opportunities. And, if you stay stuck for long enough, inertia sets in, and the body at rest tends to stay at rest, and there's less and less motivation to move. So for me, sometimes if I'm in that place, just giving myself permission to just show up, that's it, complete sentence, gets me off that place of don't know what to do. Interesting thing that happens, if you bring your body, often your mind and your feelings will follow. Have you noticed? Now, we know that all of our experience originates in our consciousness, in our thoughts and our minds, but sometimes it's a physical thing. Let's move our body. Let's just show up. And then our mind, our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings will follow. There are many, many pivotal times in my life when I just showed up and was terrified beforehand or it was totally an unknown. The two I'll mention that were the biggest were, number one, when I was at the bottom of my alcoholism, and I remember so vividly when I was backed into a corner, realizing there was nothing else to do. All I could think of was dial the phone, because a friend who was in recovery and had been for years had said, if you ever need to talk, call me. And I thought about it for a long time, but finally I just dialed that phone. Did I want to? No. Did I feel like it? No. But I did it with no promises, no plan, no commitments. I just dialed the phone. But that's all I needed to do. It led to meeting with that person, which led to getting me into rehab for 5 weeks, which led me into a life that was totally transformed, of sobriety and serenity. All I had to do to start that was just show up. The other one was when I met my beloved, wonderful, fabulous, incredible husband, Erwin. I don't think I've ever told you about him, have I? But you remember the story, many of you have heard too, but it started with a blind date where he called, and I didn't even want to go out on a blind date, but I showed up, and the rest was history. Love at first sight for me. And I'm still was convincing him till the very end till he passed away. I know it was love at first sight for you too, wasn't it? Anyway, I never let him out of my sight, so that doesn't matter whether he got the message. But it was just started with showing up. So show up. It's a tool that I do use a lot. Whenever I'm caught up in dread or worry or feeling stuck, or if I'm on the verge of something new and exciting that I want to explore. And again, either way, I can be stuck with all of the, the things I think I need to arrange. And when I just show up, at minimum, it alleviates my stress and my discontent, and at best, it leads me to the next step of whatever it is. So here's my question to you. Can you think of one thing this week that you're willing to try just showing up for? Remembering that you are God expressing, you've got all the power of the universe in, as, and through you, and that you are not alone. Think about it. So the next thing then is pay attention. Now that might seem obvious. You might be thinking, well, I'm an attentive person. I pay attention to what's going on. Yeah, like the blonde joke. I can tell a blonde joke because I was born blonde, so to all the blondes. But this came across, and I've shared it before, but if you know the punchline, don't tell anybody. So there was this blonde, and she had just gotten a new sports car, and she was out driving around having a great time and not paying a lot of attention to where she was going, and she accidentally swerved into the path of a great big truck and it kind of almost missed hitting. The truck driver almost missed hitting her car. Well, he was just beside himself. He was outraged. They didn't have a word for road rage back then, but it was road rage. So he forced her car off to the side of the road, and he got out of his truck in a snit, and he had a piece of chalk that he pulled out of his pocket. He pulled something out of his pocket, and here it was, a piece of chalk. And he told her to get out of her car, and she did, what did I do something? And so she got out of her car, and he drew a great big circle with the chalk on the road. And he said, okay, I want you to stand in that circle and do not move. Okay, so she stepped into the circle, stood there. Then he marched over her to her car, and he was so angry, so he cut up all the leather seats. He then got a baseball bat out of his car and smashed all the windows, and then looked at her, and to his amazement, she had a big smile on her face. Well, he was undaunted, so he took his knife and he sliced all of her tires. And to his shock, he saw she was just laughing and laughing almost uncontrollably. So he finally said, what the blankety blank is so funny about this? And her answer was, ha, you weren't paying attention because every time you weren't looking, I stepped outside the circle. So pay attention. What are we paying attention to, right? So what do I mean about paying attention? Be present. It's about being present. It's about paying attention to the smallest things, about paying attention to whatever is in front of you. The good, I'll say the quote good and the quote bad. Let's not say we can only look at the good. Look at it all, because that's where we find we're guided to the next step. See, now that you've shown up, be where your body is. That's paying attention. And why is this important? Well, if you're not paying attention, if we're not paying attention, we miss guidance that's there for us. We miss opportunities and resources and insights. We're missing the abundance of the blessings that are all around us. They can blow right by us if we're not paying attention. And so if you're feeling discontented, if we are, any of us is feeling discontented about anything and caught in the despair even of lack and limitation, it's likely we're not paying attention. Someone said, if you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. So my question to you on this one is, can you think of something, one thing this week that you're willing to try paying closer attention to, realizing again that you're not alone. God expressing as you got a partner. Pay attention. Don't be afraid to look at the things that are disturbing you. Don't stare at them. Don't stay there. Look at it all. Pay attention. Third thing, tell the truth. Now, we all have an inner something that lets us know when we're not telling the truth, doesn't it? Remember when it was let your conscience be your guide? Does anybody remember conscience? I haven't heard that word for a long time. My mom always used it. Let your conscience be your guide, honey. H.L. Mencken, the writer, said it this way. He said, it's that inner voice that warns us somebody might be looking. That's something that says, maybe I better tell the truth. Am I telling the truth? Maybe I better. This is about telling the truth, certainly, to those around you, and also telling the truth to yourself. There are times when it's really tempting to embellish the facts, to alter the truth just a little bit, to cover up a little bit. Or there are times when we just don't want to be seen for exactly who we are. And so we aren't authentic. That's part of telling the truth. Remember, as Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote, God put its stamp of individuality on itself and called it you. Wow, that's an invitation to tell the truth, be the truth of who you are. And the result that happens when we're not telling the truth is there's a sense of discontent. We may not even be entirely aware of it, because it's kind of an inner dissonance that happens when we don't tell the truth, when we're not being either authentic or truthful. Our bodies know it, and the consequences are inevitable. Our bodies know when we're telling the truth. There's a headache center, clinic, at a Philadelphia medical center devoted to helping people who have chronic and severe headache issues. And so, of course, they have many protocols that they offer, but one of the things they offer is a list of stress-reducing techniques, because we know that stress contributes to headaches. And first thing on that list of stress-reducing techniques for the body, for the headaches, is do nothing that will require you to tell a lie. Do nothing that will require you to tell a lie. So here's the thing behind all of that. It's not about, if you tell a lie, you're going to go to hell or something like that. You'll be in hell probably, because the discomfort can be pretty awful if you're paying attention to your conscience. But here's the thing. Nature, all of life, the universe functions according to a powerful and yet delicate balance. All the elements must be in integrity in order for life to survive. Nature, the balance of nature, it's all intertwined, and that's you and me too, and that's our bodies, our minds. It's all created in such an exquisite balance. And so when we're telling the truth as best we can and being authentic, we're in alignment with the way life works, and we're healthier and we're more alive. We're in sync with nature, and that is a recipe for contentment. So let me ask you this week. Is there one thing that you're willing to tell the truth about to yourself, about yourself, to someone else, to just check and see, am I being truthful? Remembering again, there's nothing to fear, because you are God expressing. I mean, this is getting you in alignment with the universe. And you're not alone. So the fourth tool then is be unattached to the outcome. Be unattached to outcomes, whatever they are. Show up, pay attention, tell the truth, be unattached to outcomes. I've done all that other stuff you might be thinking, and now I can't even expect something. Well, this doesn't mean we can't have goals or intentions based on the things we desire. Absolutely not. But here's what I mean by being attached to the outcome. This idea, this desire has to happen exactly in the way I describe it, at exactly the time I want, with all the right players involved that I dictate. In other words, I'm in the middle of the Ways and Means Committee, and I'm attached to that, and it has to happen that way. And when you're in that much of a state of attachment, you know how you feel. Think about your mindset. It can almost feel desperate. That's why when we talk about affirmative prayer requests, yes, we start with what is up for you, what is your immediate desire. We don't discount that. But we expand it, and you'll notice on the prayer request forms, to what qualities do you desire? Because we're talking infinite intelligence again, that can bring you what you desire in ways and methods and processes that you would never have imagined or been able to even think up. And so that's what I mean about being unattached to the outcome, because when we're attached and scrutinizing to how it's all supposed to happen, we almost become, we're kind of doubtful, actually. I have to do this because if I don't, it won't happen. And it certainly stirs up a sense of discontent. And Alan Cohen has a chapter in his book where he talks about this, and he says, desperation repels. Desperation repels. So when we're in that state of attachment to the outcome, we're almost pushing it away. It's kind of like being in that I'm incomplete until it happens in the way that I want it to happen. And all that does, that I'm missing it, I'm incomplete, manifests more of I'm incomplete, and I'm in need. Thoughts generate our experiences, and if we're in a mindset of I don't have it and I need it, then okay, we'll create more of I don't have it and I need it. Now that gives you pause, because a lot of times we think, if I just think about it hard enough, then it'll happen. And actually, we're just creating a consciousness of I don't have it. And so the lesson in there is get into a consciousness of what it will be like quality-wise when whatever it is you desire comes about. Be in that consciousness. And you then are open to welcoming it. Another way of saying this is be unattached to outcomes is a willingness to be okay with the unpredictable. Deepak Chopra wrote it beautifully in many, many ways, but I love this, the way he said it. Being unattached to the need for predictability is actually being open to the field of all possibilities and to the manifestation of what you desire in ways and means you might never have imagined. Being unattached. So, question, can you think of something that you desire, but that you're willing to let go in this way? Let go of being attached to the outcome, being willing to be comfortable with the unpredictable nature of it, and thereby know that, again, because all of this is the way God works, the way Spirit works, is opening you up to the field of infinite possibility. So you're not losing anything. You're opening yourself up to what is there for you. You're not alone. So behind all of these 4 weeks of talking about radical contentment is the word trust. You've heard me referring to that without saying it through my message today, but it is about trust. It's about trusting life, trusting Spirit, trusting God to support you as you live in alignment with the way life works. Trusting that you can show up and pay attention and tell the truth and be unattached to the outcomes, because you know that Spirit's intention is simply to support your greater unfolding into everything you're intended to be. So why not try it? It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. One of my favorite biblical passages. So, in closing, Bob is going to sing a wonderful song that is all about, really wraps up all this feeling and this reality of being content by simply being in these moments of your life and creating precious moments. Namaste.